kind of thinking about a topic and wanted to make a video. I was thinking that just how everything works until it doesn't. And the context in which I was thinking about this was in regards to, like, if you look at just YouTube videos, like clickbait, that's something that's like a trend, and it'll work for a while, but then eventually the trend will change. Technology, it will work for a while, and then something better comes along, created by people who say, okay, this is what we have right now, and we can come up with something better. So in this way, like, things change over time. Whatever works now will work now, but it won't later. Whatever strategies you have that are working for you right now may work now, but may not later. Certain things in nature, those you can look at nature, laws of nature, those kind of remain forever, or those are things that are constant, so you can kind of grow from them or build off of them. You can look at nature, and you can build skills. Skills will last. You can build relationships. You build good relationships, those will last. But other than that, everything is chaos. Everything changes. Everything will shift and grow and alter. What works now won't in the future, and you'll have like a few things. That's what first principles is that you have a few things that are like at the base, that are like your axioms, that are your what's established, and then everything else has to kind of build from that and grow from that. And things change, and the only thing you'll have, your only like arsenal, will be those unchanging few things that you have, your principles, your skills, your good relationships that you built. Just very few things. And you count on things changing. What you're doing now, and the strategies and homeostasis that you have now will be different than the homeostasis you'll have in the future at a different time or a different point. And I think a big thing in all these things is like figuring out what's fixed and what's not. Certain things are fixed, but a lot of things aren't. If people have a growth mindset, then they count on being able to grow and change and adapt and get better over time. Most people aren't taught this mindset because our society wants us to kind of be bred to be slaves, or be somewhat enslaved, or it's just not like something that's taught to mass like society, but I think it's in human nature that, like, if you throw a wild man into the forest and he's attacked, he would fight to the death to survive, and he'd adapt, he'd do what it takes to survive. But people aren't taught that way, because that way they can be controlled. Maybe they can be controlled, and again, that's not making a judgment. That's not a good or bad thing, because there's benefits of it. That way you can keep a civil society, and it's not maybe a society where everyone fights to the death and stuff. So perhaps there's purposes to it, but nevertheless, society isn't taught that. Society isn't taught that, to kind of, to adapt and to grow, to have that growth mindset. So we can grow, we can change, we can get better, can build skills, can get better at a lot of things. But then there are certain things that are fixed, like your nature or your tendencies, your strengths and weaknesses, and inherent qualities, certain things, the personality. These are things that are fixed to some regard, and you can't change and you can't tweak. Those are certain things, but like bigger things are things that are tied to nature. Your personality, your essence, like who you are, your like archetype and stuff, your kind of character and strengths, weaknesses, those sort of traits, those are tied to who you are, and those are tied to nature. And I guess the rule follows that anything that's tied to nature is anything tied to nature is kind of fixed, but then everything else is subject to change. And all these different things that people worry about or care about or are fixated on in the media or in society or in everyday life, with their own lives or other people's lives, um, it'll all change. And we don't see it change because it happens like little bit by little bit, like a dimmer switch, like very gradually instead of all at once, like a big change. And the significance of that is that when it very gradually switches like that, that people don't see it. It's like blended, so you don't see the gradual shifts and the gradual changes. You just see every day to day, and you don't notice that, oh shit, like this is changing or shifting significantly, until one day you have a very different society than you did in the past. Um, yeah. And so what is today will be different tomorrow. That will be true for technology, for politics, for religion, for what's politically correct, what's right to say or wrong to say, how the media is, how people are, how society is, how cities and nations and so many different things are. Tomorrow will be a very different world from today. And for us, for the individual, to be able to survive in that or to fight that or to live in that, you only have the fixed things and the things that you can kind of cultivate with those fixed things, cultivate and build from the ground up from those fixed things, which is what first principles is. And you kind of have like your nature and your tendencies, and then you have the skills that you can build, and kind of relationships you can build, and value you can get from other people, wisdom you can get from other people, different perspectives that you can get from other people, which is invaluable, and then skills that you can build over time. And what was the other thing? Skills and relationships and I guess habits, but no, it's like skills, relationships, and something else that I'm kind of forgetting. Things tied to nature. I guess things tied to nature is the other thing that you have in your arsenal, and then it's off into the world. Survival of the fittest. I think that's how humanity is, how nature is, how it should be. It's a beautiful thing. Competition is a beautiful thing. And other people shouldn't be. That doesn't mean be a dick to other people. That doesn't mean like you shit on other people in society, but it means that you bring them up and help them get back on their feet so they can work to compete again. Life is about competition and evolution. That's what life is about, and nature shows that in very smallest of kind of details and examples. So yeah, something to think about. What's working today won't necessarily work tomorrow. You have to keep shifting your strategies and approaches and kind of what you're doing and how you're going about things and the people that are involved and a lot of other things, a lot of the details. Tomorrow will be very different from today. What's working today won't tomorrow. How today is will be very different tomorrow. How things are now will be different tomorrow. And you kind of always have to be planning or ready for growth, for whatever you're doing to scale even further down the road. What are you going to do if like you're doing these things now and then further on it's going to be like a year later it's going to be bigger and stuff. With like lifting and stuff, like okay, the calories you're eating now, what if you track for a year or two ahead when you have to suddenly eat more because you're lifting more or because you're bigger and stuff. So all of these things, we don't know what the future will be, but it's a healthy thing to kind of account for things to be very different, and maybe also to that they'll scale farther than they are right now. So sometimes it's like that, a lot of times it's like that, and you can kind of plan for that like if you're having problems now, like okay, account for when it's going to be a couple of years down the road when that scales like even further, like your business size now versus it will be in like 2 or 3 years. But nevertheless, like, you have time, you take it a day at a time, and I'm learning other people is invaluable. You need the other people, and you can get so much from other people, and they can get a lot of things from you, and you just keep using those resources. You use nature, you use skills that you build, you use other people, um, the relationships you build, and maybe something else, but those are like a few key things. And then count on tomorrow being very different from today, your approach being very different, and the world outside you being different. So on the inside it's different tomorrow, and on the outside it's different tomorrow. The world will be different, mm, reality will be different, and also who you are, like what you're doing, your strategies, your kind of tactics, and your daily routine, and how you're going about things, what you know and who you've become and stuff, and a lot of just all these details will be very different. So you and how you're presenting yourself to the world will be very different tomorrow, and the world itself will be very different tomorrow, and other people will be different too. So all these things will be different, and in a world of chaos, in a world of differences like that, where everything's going to be different tomorrow, the thing that you have that can combat it, or like that you have in your arsenal to face it, and to have like a fighting chance of hoping to survive, and kind of just take it all on, is yeah, your relationships, your nature, and your looking to examples of nature, and skills you build, and maybe a few other things that like slip my mind. But yeah, I think it's a very important topic, and kind of something relevant, something to think about. Yeah, wonder what I think about this in the future, but I don't know. It's a beautiful thing. I think it's a nice thing. I like where life is right now. I'm very happy, very fulfilled, and tomorrow will be different, So we'll kind of see how it is. And and just the last thing is that a lot of the time it is going towards a direction of like fears, and what's uncomfortable, and what you're afraid of, and what you don't want to do, and you're afraid of, and what's uncomfortable, and kind of maybe against what you feel like doing. But then in doing those uncomfortable things is where the growth is, and doing what you're afraid of, and doing what like feels wrong, and feels like fucking painful, and feels like fuck, like it's killing you and stuff, but you go and do those things, and they force you to grow. So that's like something else to think about too. But yeah, just some things I was thinking about.